All right, so today we're diving into something that I think we all deal with, and that's budgeting.
Yeah,
Um, and, we all want to feel confident about our money, right?
exactly.
Not
Of
stress.
course.
So we're going to break down how to make a budget that really works for you, and we've got some great resources.
Awesome.
We've got tips from a financial coach, Maggie Germano, a guide from Bank of America, and then just a really relatable article called How to Create a Monthly Budget That Really Works.
Perfect.
So no more feeling lost in receipts. We're going to find some clarity here.
Yeah, that feeling of just like looking at your bank account and being like, oh my gosh, where did it all go?
Exactly, yeah.
Definitely.
And especially, I think I was reading in one of these sources, something like 80% of Americans feel stressed about their finances.
Yeah.
So it's like a huge number.
And it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if we don't actually know where our money is going and like what's coming in and what's going out, it's hard to feel in control.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, it's like, oh, I want to feel confident. I want to feel excited about my money. But instead, there's this like fear.
Right.
So what's fascinating to me is how much psychology plays into budgeting.
Ooh, yeah.
It's not just numbers.
Right.
Like we'll see that throughout all of our sources.
Yeah.
It's about aligning your money habits with what you truly value.
Love that.
So we'll definitely kind of explore that connection as we go today.
Yeah, because if you think about it, we all have different values.
Right.
So like, how does that reflect our budgeting?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So first things first, we got to know what we're working with.
Right.
So Bank of America says step 1 is calculate your monthly income.
Yes.
Okay.
And that sounds easy enough, for those of us that have regular paychecks.
Yeah.
Look at your pay stubs,
Yeah.
how much is coming in each month. But
Yeah.
for those of us that, maybe work multiple jobs or have a fluctuating income like freelancers,
Right.
business owners, that's where it can get a little bit trickier. One of our articles suggests finding your average monthly income over a set period of time.
Yeah.
So maybe like the last 3 months or 6 months
Okay.
gives you a more realistic starting point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I know this isn't the most fun part, but we got to talk about tracking expenses.
Oh, yeah.
I know this seems tedious.
I know it's not the most glamorous.
Yeah, right. But our sources all agree this is where those aha moments happen.
Totally.
You might be so surprised where your money's actually going.
Yes, and this is where we can get into some of that psychology too, right? Because sometimes we might spend money kind of mindlessly or habitually or based on, our emotions.
Oh, interesting.
And then when we actually look at it, we're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was spending, $100 a month on
Right.
whatever it is,
Yeah. Yeah,
And then we can kind of start to question, well, is that in line with my values?
right.
Do I really want to be spending that much money
Right.
on that thing?
Okay, so I love that point that you just made about because it's not about restriction.
Right.
It's about
It's about awareness first.
awareness.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
and then making choices from there.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, love it. Okay.
Remember that anecdote about the writer who realized they were spending way more on restaurants than they thought?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of eye-opening insight that tracking can give you.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we make this tracking less painful?
Yes.
Our sources have some suggestions.
Yes, they do.
I know this is,
Some really good ones.
yeah, this can be the tough part.
Well, budgeting apps can truly be lifesavers in this process.
Okay.
Maggie Germano specifically, she recommends a few: Clarity Money, LearnVest, or Mint.
There.
These apps, they actually connect to your bank accounts and automatically categorize your spending,
Wow.
which just takes so much of the legwork out of it. You don't have to, go through your receipts or remember every little transaction.
Wow, so tech savvy.
Right.
Yeah.
But so those who like things a little bit more hands-on, good old spreadsheets or even a notebook can work too. It
Right.
really depends on your preference,
Okay.
what works for you.
Yeah.
Maggie actually has a free sample budget spreadsheet on her site,
Oh, great.
which is a great bonus for you if you're listening.
Yeah.
And regardless of your method, the key is to be consistent.
Right.
Whether you update it daily, weekly, or monthly, make it a habit
Okay.
so it becomes just part of your routine.
And don't forget those irregular expenses that pop up, like the annual subscriptions, insurance premiums, things like that.
Oh, yes, the things we kind of forget about and then all of a sudden they're due.
Right.
Yeah, one article had a great tip for that.
Yeah.
Set up a separate savings account just for those irregular expenses
Okay.
and automate monthly transfers
Oh,
so you're
God.
always prepared.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a sinking fund
Right.
that you're gradually contributing to
Yeah.
throughout the year.
That's great. Okay, so we've got a grasp on our income and expenses.
Yes.
Now it's time to get excited about setting some financial goals right.
Yes.
So why is this so important in the budgeting process?
Well, goals provide direction and motivation.
Yeah.
They help you prioritize your spending and make those conscious choices that we were talking about.
Okay.
It's like having a financial roadmap, you know?
Yeah.
If you don't know where you're going, any path seems fine, but with a destination in mind, you can map out the most efficient route.
Oh, that's a great analogy. I love that.
Yeah.
So it's like that GPS, you plug in where you want to go,
Exactly.
and it helps get you there.
And it shows you like how long it's going to take, what roads to take
Yeah.
to avoid traffic, all that good stuff.
Love it. Okay, so our sources mentioned different types of goals, like
Yeah.
short-term and long-term.
Yes.
What are some examples?
Yeah, so short-term goals usually have a time frame of 1 to 3 years.
Okay.
So think about things like building an emergency fund, paying off a credit card, saving for a down payment on a car or a house,
Yeah.
maybe a vacation,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Long-term goals are those big dreams that might take years or even decades.
Right.
So buying a house, retiring comfortably,
Okay.
starting a business, things like that.
So with those long-term goals, it's like you almost have to break them down into those smaller short-term goals.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important point. It can
Yeah.
feel really overwhelming to think about, saving for retirement when you're in your 20s or 30s.
Right.
But if you break it down into smaller chunks, it feels much more manageable.
Totally. And I think that speaks to our earlier point, too, about not getting overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Small steps lead to big results.
Love it. One thing that really resonated with me was Maggie's emphasis on aligning your money habits with your values.
Yes.
It's not about restriction. It's about making choices that support the life you want to build.
I love that.
Right.
And it's such a powerful reframe because I think a lot of times when we think about budgeting, we think about what we can't do.
Yeah.
What we have to cut back on.
Right.
And it can feel very restrictive and negative.
Yeah.
But what if we flipped that script and we thought about it as, okay, how can I use my money
Right.
to support the things that are most important to me?
Exactly.
So it becomes about abundance rather than scarcity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about making choices that feel good and feel aligned with who you are.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of future success,
Yeah.
let's talk about the S-word savings.
Yes.
I know it can be intimidating,
Yeah.
but one of our sources had this amazing tip to automate your savings transfers before you pay any other bills.
Oh, yes.
They call it the pay yourself first method,
Love it.
and it's a total game changer.
It really is.
So you're literally putting that money aside before you even have a chance to spend it.
Exactly. And it takes so much of the discipline and the willpower
Right.
out of it because it's automated.
Yes.
You don't even have to think about it.
So are there any apps that can help with that automation, or is it something you have to do with your bank?
Yeah, most banks actually have that functionality
Okay.
where you can set up automatic transfers between accounts.
Okay.
And a lot of budgeting apps also have that feature built in as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so now here's where things get really interesting. Let's talk about different budgeting methods.
Yes.
There's no one-size-fits-all,
Right.
right? So we'll explore a couple of popular options just to see what might resonate with you.
Awesome.
So one that keeps coming up is the 50-30-20 method.
Yes, a classic.
Okay.
And a great starting point for many people because it's simple.
Okay.
It's easy to grasp, and it works for various income levels.
Okay.
Essentially, you allocate 50% of your after-tax income to needs,
Okay.
30% to wants,
Okay.
and 20% to savings or debt repayment.
Okay. Break that down for me a little bit more.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. So needs are your essential expenses,
Right.
the things you absolutely need to cover each month.
So, like, what kinds of things fall under needs?
Think about your housing costs.
Right.
So your rent or your mortgage.
Okay.
Utilities,
Mm-hmm.
groceries, transportation,
Yeah.
any minimum debt payments that you have,
Okay.
health care,
Got it.
basically anything that's like non-negotiable
Right.
for you to live and function.
The must-haves.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then wants.
Yes.
This is where things get a little more fun.
Okay.
Wants are your non-essential expenses,
Right.
the things that bring you joy and make life more enjoyable.
Okay.
So things like dining out, entertainment, hobbies, travel, that new gadget that you've been eyeing,
Yeah.
all the fun stuff.
Right.
But it's important to be mindful of our wants
Right.
because they can easily creep up on us
Right.
and eat into our budget if we're not careful.
Yeah. Especially when we're not tracking, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why tracking is so important.
Yes. And then the last category, 20% to savings or debt repayment.
Right.
And this is where, we really start to prioritize our financial future.
Right.
So if you have debt, you can put that 20% towards paying down your debt.
Okay.
If you're debt-free or you've got your debt under control, you
Yeah.
can put that 20% towards saving for your goals.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about finding that balance between enjoying life now
Right.
and then building a secure future.
Exactly. Making those conscious choices and finding a balance that works for you, not against you.
Okay, so now the pay yourself first method, which we touched on a little bit earlier, really puts savings front and center.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
With the pay yourself first method, you basically decide on a specific amount or percentage
Okay.
of your income that goes directly into savings as soon as you get paid.
Okay.
So it's like paying your future self first
Right.
before you even have a chance to spend that money.
Okay. I love that concept.
Yeah.
Okay, before we move on, I want to circle back to the idea of aligning your money habits with your values.
Oh, yes. I'm so glad you brought that up again.
Yeah, I think it's so powerful, and I think it's worth digging into a bit more,
I agree. I think it's a really crucial part of this whole conversation.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. It's all about understanding what truly matters to you and ensuring that your financial choices reflect those values.
Yeah, like how do we actually put that into practice?
Well, it starts with getting clear about what your values are.
Okay.
So maybe take some time to reflect on what's most important to you in life.
Okay, so like what are some examples of values?
Yeah, so some common values might be things like family, security, freedom, creativity, personal growth, community, health, adventure.
Okay, so once we have those values identified,
Yeah.
how do we tie those into our budgeting?
Yeah, that's the key question, right?
Yeah.
So once you have a good understanding of your values, you can start to look at your spending and ask yourself, is this expense supporting my values?
Oh, interesting. Okay, so give me an example.
Yeah, so let's say one of your top values is health.
Okay.
You might prioritize spending money on healthy food, gym memberships, or activities that support your well-being.
Got it.
On the other hand, if you're spending a lot of money on fast food or things that don't align with your health goals, you might want to reconsider those choices.
Right, it's about making those conscious decisions.
Exactly. It's about aligning your spending with what truly matters to you.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional.
Okay, so we've talked about values, we've talked about calculating income, tracking expenses, setting goals, prioritizing savings.
Yeah.
What other helpful tips did our sources have?
All of them really stressed finding a budgeting method that actually fits your lifestyle.
Right,
There's no magic formula that works for everyone.
right. It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly.
Maggie Germano was really adamant about that.
Yeah, it's about finding what clicks for you. Whether it's the 50-30-20 method's simplicity, the visual aspect of the envelope system, or the detailed tracking of zero-based budgeting.
Right.
There are so many options out there. It's just about finding what feels right for you.
Speaking of zero-based budgeting, that one can be great for detail-oriented folks, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you explain a little bit more about how it works?
Yeah, so the idea is that every dollar has a job.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the month, you allocate all of your income to specific categories.
Okay.
So rent, groceries, savings, even that daily coffee, you're assigning a specific amount to each category.
Oh, okay. So it's like a really detailed plan for your money.
Exactly. It's about being intentional with every dollar.
Okay. And then you track your spending throughout the month to make sure you're sticking to your plan.
Exactly. And if you go over in one category, you have to adjust by taking money from another.
Oh, okay.
It really forces you to make choices and prioritize.
So it's like a puzzle where all the pieces have to fit perfectly.
Exactly. And it can be a great way to really get a handle on your spending and make sure you're aligned with your goals.
What about the envelope system?
Oh, the envelope system.
I've heard of that one, but I've never really understood how it works.
It's actually pretty simple and visual.
Okay.
You literally divide your cash into different envelopes labeled with specific spending categories.
Okay.
So let's say you budget $200 for groceries for the month.
Good.
You put that cash in the groceries envelope,
Okay.
and that's all you have to spend for the month.
So if you run out of cash in the envelope, no more groceries.
Exactly. It's a great way to stay visually connected to your spending and avoid overspending.
Right, because you're actually seeing that money disappear.
Exactly. It's tangible, it's real, it's not just numbers on a screen.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And for some people, that visual aspect can be really helpful.
Yeah, especially for those of us who are more visual learners.
Absolutely.
Speaking of overspending, what about those unexpected expenses?
Oh, yes, the dreaded unexpected expenses.
The car repairs, the vet bills, those kinds of things that seem to pop up at the worst possible time.
Right, and those can really throw a wrench in your budget if you're not prepared.
How do we factor those into our perfectly planned budgets?
That's where the all-important emergency fund comes in.
Right.
It's your financial safety net.
Okay, so the emergency fund, we've talked about that before, right?
We have, and it's really crucial.
Okay.
It's about being prepared, not panicking when those unexpected costs arise.
Our sources recommend aiming for 3 to 6 months of living expenses in that fund.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb.
I know, it sounds like a lot, especially when you're just starting out.
It can feel daunting, for sure.
Yeah.
But even starting small, like $50 or $100 a month, makes a difference over time.
Okay.
It's all about consistency and building that safety net gradually.
So where should we keep this emergency fund?
It's best to keep it separate from your regular checking account.
Okay.
A high-yield savings account is a good option. It keeps your emergency money easily accessible while also earning a little interest.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about something that might make some people squirm a little bit, and that's debt.
Debt, the D word.
Yeah, it's a big topic, and it can feel really overwhelming.
It can, but it's important to address it.
Okay, what advice do our sources have for tackling debt and making it part of our budgets?
They all agree on being strategic and making a plan.
Okay, so what kind of plan are we talking about?
There are a couple of popular methods for debt repayment, the snowball method and the avalanche method.
Okay, break those down for me.
Okay, so the snowball method focuses on paying off the smallest debt first,
Okay.
regardless of the interest rate.
Okay.
You make minimum payments on all your other debts, but you throw every extra dollar you can at that smallest one.
Okay.
Once it's paid off, you roll that payment amount into the next smallest debt, and so on.
I can see how that would create momentum, like a snowball gathering speed as it rolls downhill.
Exactly, and those small wins can be really motivating.
Right.
The avalanche method, on the other hand, targets the debt with the highest interest rate first.
Okay.
This can save you money on interest in the long run, but it might take a little longer to see those initial wins.
So it really depends on your personality and what motivates you.
Exactly.
Do you need those quick wins to stay on track, or are you okay with playing the long game?
Precisely. It's all about finding a debt repayment strategy that aligns with your financial personality and goals.
So we've talked about different methods for budgeting, different methods for tackling debt.
Yes.
One thing that really struck me as we were exploring these sources is that budgeting isn't just about numbers.
Absolutely.
It's also about mindset.
100%.
Right.
It's about shifting your perspective.
Okay.
Instead of feeling limited by your budget, see it as a tool to create the life you want.
Ooh, I like that.
It's about making conscious choices that align with your values and priorities.
And being kind to yourself along the way.
Yes, absolutely.
We're all human.
Yes.
There will be times when we overspend or miss a payment or just feel overwhelmed.
It happens to the best of us.
The key is to learn from those experiences and keep moving forward.
Exactly.
Budgeting is a journey, not a destination.
I love that.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now that we've covered some essential budgeting methods, strategies for tackling debt, this whole mindset piece,
Yes.
what are some practical tips for actually sticking to a budget?
One of our sources had a great tip. Regularly review and adjust your budget.
Okay.
They recommend doing it at least monthly, but quarterly works too.
Okay.
This helps you stay on track and make any necessary adjustments.
That makes sense, like checking in with yourself and your money,
Yeah.
seeing how things are going, and making any tweaks as needed.
Yeah, it's like a financial tune-up.
Yeah.
Like you take your car in for regular maintenance to make sure everything's running smoothly.
Right.
You got to do the same thing with your finances.
And this is where budgeting apps can be super helpful.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right.
They can send you alerts if you're nearing your spending limit in a certain category or if you have upcoming bills to pay.
Oh, that's handy.
So they kind of keep you on track and accountable.
Yeah. I remember one article mentioned some other cool features those apps have, like setting up sinking funds
Yes.
for specific goals, like a vacation or a down payment, and even tracking your net worth over time.
Right, and a lot of them connect directly to your bank accounts,
Oh, wow.
which makes tracking your spending even easier.
Yeah.
It's like having a personal finance assistant in your pocket.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, aligning your spending with your values.
Yes.
It seems like that's a recurring theme in our sources, and I think it's a
Yes.
really powerful concept.
It is, and I think it's something that's often overlooked in traditional budgeting advice.
Yeah,
It's not just about crunching numbers and sticking to a strict plan.
right.
It's about making sure that your money is actually supporting the life that you want to live.
So how do we do that?
Well, it starts with recognizing that your money is a tool.
Okay,
You can use it to create the life that you want.
I like that.
It's about making choices that reflect what truly matters to you.
Okay, so give me some examples.
Okay, so let's say sustainability is important to you.
Okay.
You might prioritize buying eco-friendly products or investing in companies with strong environmental practices.
That's a great example.
Or if experiences are more important to you than material possessions,
Yeah.
you might allocate more of your budget to travel or concerts or things that create memories
Yeah.
rather than spending money on, the latest gadgets or clothes.
Okay, so it's all about making those conscious choices.
Exactly.
And sometimes that might mean saying no to things that don't align with your values,
Right.
even if it's something that everyone else seems to be doing.
Yeah, it's about being true to yourself and what matters to you.
I think that's a great takeaway. Budgeting isn't about deprivation or fitting into a mold.
Right.
It's about empowerment, about creating a life that feels authentic and aligned with what you truly value.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So to recap our deep dive into budgeting basics, we've explored a lot.
We have.
We started with the fundamentals, calculating your income and tracking those often hidden expenses.
Yes.
We talked about the importance of setting financial goals, both those short-term wins and those long-term dreams.
Right.
And we dove into the empowering concept of paying yourself first by prioritizing savings.
Love it.
We also explored a variety of budgeting methods, emphasizing that there's no one right way to do it.
Yeah, find what works for you.
It's all about finding what works best for you and your lifestyle.
Exactly.
We tackled those unexpected expenses by emphasizing the importance of a solid emergency fund, and we even explored different strategies for managing and paying off debt.
Right. Getting that debt under control.
Yeah, and throughout it all, we highlighted the importance of mindset approaching budgeting with a sense of empowerment and self-compassion, and making choices that reflect your values and priorities. Remember, taking control of your finances is a journey, not a destination.
That's so important.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Absolutely.
And by implementing even some of the tips and strategies we've discussed today, you're setting yourself up for a more secure and fulfilling financial future.
You're taking control of your money
Yes.
and you're creating a life that you love.
Well said.
Oh, thank you.
If you're feeling inspired to dive deeper into any of the budgeting methods or resources we mentioned, Maggie Germano's website is a great place to start. She offers that free sample budget spreadsheet we talked about.
Yes.
And there are tons of budgeting apps available, many with free trials.
Yes.
So you can find one that fits your style.
Definitely explore and see what works best for you.
So go forth,
Yeah.
embrace the power of budgeting, and start creating a financial future that aligns with your dreams and aspirations.
Yes.
You've got this lot